Okay, boxing fans. Shawn Porter versus Kell Brook. These are our thoughts, our predictions, la la la. So we got the whole crew here for this one because it's such a big fight. Porter versus Brook. Firstly, starting with Paul. What are your thoughts on Porter allowing Brook to watch him spar?
Some people are saying it's because Porter's just so confident that he doesn't care if Brook and his trainers see him sparring. It's not going to change anything. I think it's more to do with Porter's character. To be honest, he's a laid-back guy, isn't he? He's always smiling. He's always chilled. If that was someone like, I don't know, an Adrian Broner or someone really volatile, then I can imagine them kicking off and saying, "Oh, what are you doing in my gym? Get out, get out. Where's the security?" Freddie Roach caused a big fight just because there was someone in the gym he didn't want there. So, but Porter and his whole team, they just seem like they're not really bothered, just because that's just how they are. They're chilled. They don't let anything, ruffle the feathers, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably the case. Chris, what are your thoughts on Brook watching Porter in sparring?
Well, I think from an outsider looking in, it probably shows weakness on Kell Brook's point. Why do you want to watch your opponent sparring and all that? And it's a little bit weird that the guy's allowing it to happen. Why would you want your upcoming opponent to watch you spar? But in reality, sparring to a fight, there's no difference. It doesn't make no difference how long you watch someone spar for. It's not going to help you in a fight. They're just sparring.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe. I'll tell you my thoughts in a bit. Rory, what are you thinking about this?
I think it might be a bit of a sign that Porter might be taking Brook a little bit lightly. I also think, not necessarily to a massive extent, but it could even be sort of a, perhaps just another angle to kind of try and generate sort of like interest in the fight. I know there's obviously big interest in the UK, but I don't know how big a deal it is in the US, It's perhaps even just a bit of a talking point, He's underestimated. He said, yeah, sure, let him in. Let him watch it. It'll make a few headlines. It'll get people talking about it a little bit. There's no skin off his nose. He thinks he's going to probably walk through Brook anyway. So, don't worry about it kind of thing.
Yeah, I suppose. Kingy, what are your thoughts?
I don't think it really makes that much of a difference, to be honest. I really don't. I don't think he's going to be using any of the when he's watching him spar. I don't think he's going to be using any of those techniques that he's using then. He'd be daft to, But I don't think it makes much of a difference. And maybe if Kell Brook started, trying to get under his skin, and using the psychological angle, it might work. But I don't think he has been, so I don't see it being that much of a deal.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think he's that quick. I'd have done the exact same thing. I'll tell you in a minute about that. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Porter allowing Brook to watch him spar?
Maybe. Well, I didn't know that was the case, but that sounds a little bit like mind games. Come and watch me spar. It doesn't matter what I try, I'm still going to beat you. So I don't think it's has Brook actually gone to see him spar?
That's right.
Oh, then I think that's just mind games. It's just like, yeah, come and have a watch. See what I'm going to do to you in the ring.
Yeah, maybe, but I'll tell you one thing I'd have done. If I was Brook, I'd have walked straight up, stood back right underneath him, and every time that he got close to being hit, I'd be going, you're a silly cunt. But I'd have been having a real go at him, something like that. Try and get right under his skin, because even if you got clipped by a shot or anything, you go, you shit, like that. You can say, I'll just put it to the back of my mind, but you're going to listen to it. You'll be like, I just got hit. He saw me get hit. You're going to listen to it, and you're going to know. And if you say it enough times, he might get under his skin. He might get put off his game. He might come straight out in the fight and get clopped by a big one, by Brook, and then, the fight could be over. Not that I expect that to happen, but we'll leave that for later. Next question for Paul is... We were supposed to be doing a bit of testing in this fight. You saw us supposed to be doing it. Funnily enough, it got cancelled, and our regional testing company is doing it, which basically means there's no worthwhile testing happening in this fight. What are your thoughts on that, Paul? And would you suspect any boxer of PEDs? Now, I'm just going to put out a little warning. We're not saying any boxers on PEDs, but I'm just asking Paul his opinion. Paul, what are you saying?
The whole thing's a joke, really, isn't it? Eddie Hearn or whoever it was said he asked for that they be drug tested. Then Kenny Porter said, no, it was us who asked for it. Then Kenny Porter said, about a week ago, when we're only 2 weeks out of the fight, oh, but we've not been drug tested at all. No one's come round to drug tests. So, the whole thing looks like it's just an entire mess, to be perfectly honest. I don't think we'll ever hear about it again. And what I mean by that is, whether they've probably taken tests by now, but I don't think whoever is doing these drug tests, they're not going to do anything, to be honest. They're not going to take these tests seriously. They're not going to send these samples or whatever they are away and look for any banned substances or nothing. I don't think anything will come of this. I don't think we'll be hearing about our fighter has failed the drug test afterwards, because I just don't think this company, whoever it is they've got involved, is capable of catching anyone if they are doing stuff that they shouldn't.
Exactly. This is a case where, and I've seen this on Twitter by people, like loads of different people who are quite well known in the game. They've said that this is one of these situations where the testing companies don't want to find anything. They don't want to. So they're not exactly going to do the most mind-boggling testing out there to try and catch them. This is one where they're just hoping that both pass just so they can get the fight on. They don't want to catch anyone in this fight. And for that reason, they passed it on from USADA, who didn't have enough time. We didn't have enough time to go through all the ins and outs of what they can take, what they can't take. We didn't have time, so we passed it on to the little man. What are your thoughts, Chris?
Well, I think, on a wider subject really on it, I think for every single professional fight, there should be drug testing. There should be a proper governing body, a fit governing body who, just refuse to grant you a license or try revoke your license if you don't do a drugs test. I don't understand why we're still talking about this in 2014. I mean, these are people's livelihoods at stake, people's lives on the line. So, I just think as a broader point, it should be testing definitely before every single title fight. But in boxing in general, any pro fight should really have drug testing involved.
That's right. So it seems like no one's got the bottle to say if they suspect anyone, or we'll keep it like this, okay? There's 2 fighters in this fight. Do you suspect any of them without naming any names?
I'd say so, yeah. I think it's fairly obvious who people would look at. It's kind of obvious if you look through the records and maybe where one of them fought at a higher weight, for example.
Yeah, maybe. We'll come back to that in a bit, maybe. Rory, what are your thoughts on this drug testing fiasco?
Without sort of pointing fingers, but I'll put my neck on the line with this. USADA's not done it. They've obviously shipped it off, or someone whoever's in control of this has shipped it off to a little man, to probably an unknown, testing company, and without sort of being a bit dark about it, but if it's a small company that no one's heard of, they're more easily to be persuaded not to find anything. If there's an agenda and if it does go deeper than that, then paying X amount of thousands of pounds to a little known company that no one's ever heard of is an easier thing to do than USADA, a major, drugs testing company. And it's obviously not the drugs companies who are going to decide whether or not they do the fight or not. It's going to be a promoter, or it's going to be the money men behind it. Do I think either of the fighters are on peds? Yeah, I'm of the same belief as Chris, and sorry, I might as well say it, it's certainly not the English guy. The different weights, the strength at a weight, the ability at a weight, albeit, don't get me wrong, he's a good boxer, he's a decent fighter, but there's certainly suspicions, and it's, as I'm sure people who are listening to this will appreciate it, it's not coming directly from me, and that's kind of what, where I sort of stand on it.
That's right. I just want to touch on something Rory said, just for a quick moment, and the little man, this is went from USADA, which is over the whole of America, right? Whole of American, sport. they can test the whole shebang. It's gone down to the California Athletic State Commission thing. So it's went from all of America, we test everyone, we can test everyone, we do the best tests, la la la, all the way down to California. We just worry about California, really. You know, come on. It's a total joke. Kingy, what are your thoughts on this? You don't have to mention names, like I said, but are you suspicious of anyone, and what do you think about the whole drug testing fiasco?
Just want to say, Chris and Rory both made great points there. Chris is about, how can we not have, in 2014, when drugs are such an issue, one governing body that does the whole thing, every single pro fight. It's the only way, to be fair, but we all know that money runs a game, so, that throws that out the window, which is kind of the point that Rory made, a smaller company is going to be well easier to bribe. And do I think anyone's taking PEDs? I'm not the kind of guy to, go out there and say when I haven't got, evidence of something happening, that someone's doing something, but it seems suspicious to me, that a kid that was a running back in Ohio at high school, a very good running back, weighing 185 to 190 pounds, can be quick and powerful in that game, and then when he's older, still be quick and powerful when he's weighing 40 to 50 pounds less. It just doesn't make sense to me, And he doesn't gas, he's powerful at the weight. It just seems suspicious. I'm not going to stand there and say he is doing it definitely, because I haven't got any proof of that, but, I've got suspicions, mate, definitely.
Yeah, I actually don't think either of the guys you can say, are 100% clean. I mean,
no, definitely not.
I have suspicions on both guys. I have genuine suspicions on both guys. But we'll come back to that in a minute. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the whole fiasco, and do you suspect anyone individually? You don't have to mention their names.
When you say suspect people of taking PD, do you mean in the whole sport of boxing?
No, in this fight.
Oh, well, in this fight, I don't know. I mean, in the sport of boxing, yeah, I bet there are hundreds, thousands of boxers around the world taking PEDs, especially in America, which is, the home of PED, PED Central. But in this fight, I don't know, but I just think, I don't care anymore, because the argument, that there should be a unified body and all of this, it's such an old, outdated argument. It's been going on for years and years, and it's never going to happen. So it's just a boring one now. I can't be bothered with it.
Yeah, I can understand that. My opinion is, now this has been alleged, and I want to say this is allegedly, and I don't know if it's true, and I don't know if it's not true, but it's been alleged that Kell Brook has put naughty things up his nose, and if that's the truth, what is to stop him taking performance-enhancing drugs? Because he's got no morals if he's doing that. But if that's the truth, I do not know, and I'm not saying it's the truth. I'm saying it could be not true, but that could be the case. And the other guy, like we said, Shawn Porter, a guy who's dropped a lot of weight since he's become a boxer. A guy who has not suffered in terms of stamina, whose powers went up, who's got good speed. All of this while draining down in weight. Come on. That's suspicious too. Both guys are suspicious. That's why they should both be getting, severely drug tested. But they're not. Neither of them are, and that's what's unfortunate in boxing. We'll move on to the next question. So, what is the next question? Should boxing British fans be behind Kell Brook, because Eddie Hearn's been moaning about people in the UK bashing Kell Brook? Paul, what are your thoughts on this?
If people don't want to be behind him, mate, they don't have to be. To be honest, yeah. As you said, Eddie Hearn's been banging the drum, having a moan, saying, "Oh, just support Kell Brook, will you? He's a great lad. He's going over to fight this big name American. Let's all get behind him." At the end of the day, he himself has said quite a few times, "Oh, Kell doesn't always live the life. Sometimes he goes out and does stuff he shouldn't." You've touched on it earlier, and quite honestly, if that's all true, if all these rumours about Kell Brook are true, that he does stuff he shouldn't outside of training, that he puts on a load of weight, and yeah, you know what I mean, then why should I support him when he goes out and challenges for the world title? Why should I challenge someone who doesn't take his career seriously he's going out and doing all this stuff? And there's another argument as well in, why should I support a fighter who's so clearly been protected? That's not because he has been protected. Kell Brook should have fought a world level fighter a long time ago, This is years late, this title fight. We've been waiting for ages to see him step up. And I don't blame anyone for losing patience with Kell Brook before now and just saying, you know what, I'm not going to support him now because I've been waiting for ages and ages to see him step up. He's had chances before and he's not taking them. Quite honestly, I've just got no time left for him. I don't blame anyone if they've got that frame of mind, if they just think Kell Brook's not worth the time anymore. So, do I think people should support him? If you want to support him all your life. If you don't want to support him, don't support him all your life. People shouldn't get moaned at just because they don't want to see him win, because there's very, very good reasons why people wouldn't want him to win.
And there's something else I just want to point on. I don't agree with just supporting a guy because he's geographically from somewhere where you're from. You know?
Oh yeah, if that applied, mate.
That.
If that applied, mate, we should be supporting Paul Smith when he goes out to fight over Abraham. And I'll say this right now, and you can take this to the bank. I would, if Paul Smith was playing a game of Russian roulette with Joseph Kony, the African guy who puts all the kids in army, I would support Joseph Kony. If he played Paul Smith at Russian roulette.
Yeah, Paul Smith's not the top of my loving list either, so.
It's just I really hate that argument, mate. That just because someone's from the same country as you or the same city as you,
the same city, yeah, you've got to
you should automatically like them. You should judge people how you want to judge them.
Yeah, 100%. Chris, what are your thoughts on Eddie Hearn belly aching about people should support Kell Brook no matter what?
Oh, I mean, boxing's an individual sport. You know, it's one man fighting at the end of the day. You know, he's got to sell himself to the fans, whether he's English, American, or wherever he's from. Makes no difference. So, you know, on that count, Eddie Hearn should just keep his mouth shut, really. But, you know, we've got this matchroom revolution thing going on where, you know, we've been told Anthony Joshua's such a good role model, is this, that, and the other. Yeah, you only have to scratch the surface to see that actually, you know, he's not a very good role model if you look into his history. So, you know, I don't agree with any of that. I think if you want to support a guy, you know, if he lives around the corner from you, fine, I can understand you supporting him, but you support a guy on what he's done. He's been a mandatory challenger for over a year. He's pulled out. He doesn't live the lifestyle. He acts unprofessionally. His record's shy. So, you know, I can understand people not liking Kell Brook. You know, from where we're looking, he's a bit of a waster.
Yeah, you got that right. Apparently there's over 30 British boxers who've had world championship fights since Kell Brook became mandatory. Over 30. That's a joke. Rory, talk to me. Do you think we should support Kell Brook just because he's from the UK?
I think, just kind of taking a bit of a broader spectrum, when you look at sport as a whole, who you choose, or just even forget sport, what people like and don't like is an individual thing. You know what you have in your, fucking sandwiches one day. Someone might think it's horrendous and you might fucking love, but at the same time, regardless of anything, you either like someone or you don't. You might feel nonplussed about someone, you might think they're alright, you might think they're so. It's all about opinions, no more so than in boxing. And I think Eddie Hearn has kind of forgotten the fact that I'd probably say Britain as a country, in terms of boxing, are quite relatively intelligent, and I'm not probably going to put myself under this banner, but quite intelligent boxing fans for quite a small population. You know, there's people in this country that really know the boxing, and when those people start having a voice and stand up to the big sort of shit screen that is Matchroom, and they don't just go along with what Eddie Hearn says, then he's going to be annoyed. But that's just the way of the world, Eddie, you know. Just as much that people supporting someone sells a fight, people hating someone can also sell a fight. I wouldn't go as far as to say I hate Kell Brook. To be honest, I'm a bit nonplussed. If he wins, great, good for him. It's good to have a British world champion. If he doesn't, probably couldn't care less.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you actually hit the nail on the head there, Rory. That was very good. We'll go on to Kingy. So, what are your thoughts, Kingy? Should we be supporting Kell Brook just because he's from the UK?
I think Rory made a great point. Like, you know, it's all an individual thing with boxing. It's not like, you know, at the World Cup, most people, well, majority of people will support England, won't they, because of where they're from. But boxing's different, you know. because it's an individual sport, you pick up on that individual's characteristics that you like. And I mean, I'm on the same as Rory. If he wins, then good on him, he'll deserve to win. But I can totally understand people basically fed up with a guy. Because in my opinion, he's been ready for a world title fight or a world level fighter since he beat Lovemore Undo. And I mean, fucking hell, he weren't even with Matchroom then, he was with Frank Warren. So it just shows how long that he's been ready, and he's been kept at this, well, not even the same level of competition. He's been a lower rung of level of competition, so I can completely understand people have just had enough of him.
Yeah,
it should have happened, not when he became manager for the IBF, but even years before that. He was without doubt ready. He wasted Lovemore Undo on points and beaten Matthew Hatton convincingly, and it was just like he needed a big name. And soon, I'm sure that he joined Matchroom on the proviso that he was going to get this big name. But you can blame Eddie Hearn for that, but you've also got to think of does Kell Brook want it as much? Does he want it? Because he must have kicked off before now to get a big name. If he really wanted it. So I could say if he wins, fair enough, but I can totally understand why people don't get behind him, because he's taking the piss.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on this? Should we be supporting Kell Brook just because he's from the United Kingdom?
I don't particularly care. People tend to, support their local team, their local football club, or, their nationality or whatever. In America, you get lots of people, African Americans who support their homeboy in Floyd Mayweather. But that's no different to Filipinos supporting Pacquiao or Mancunians supporting Ricky Hatton. Some people just, support their own. Whereas me, I don't particularly care. Like, I'll support the fighters who I, prefer. Nationality-wise isn't relevant to me. So I don't know whether people should support him or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it comes down to the individual. That's what it comes down to at the end. I've been lucky enough to speak to both Kell Brook and, in a brief chat, and also Shawn Porter in a more in-depth chat, and I can tell you who I'm going to support in that fight, and it won't be Kell Brook, because I like Shawn Porter better. I know him. He was a really nice guy. I didn't particularly like Kell Brook when I met him. He did nothing to change that. He more than strengthened my opinion. Paul's met him. And Paul can tell you. Paul, we'll just bring Paul over. Paul, what did you think of Kell Brook when you met him?
He didn't do anything that made me really dislike him or anything. Like I said, we met him for a few seconds at a press conference. We spoke to him for a minute, and it was all right. It was nothing nasty. It was just I don't know how you took it, but I came away from it not feeling one way or the other about him, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was just he was just Kell, just some guy. When I spoke to Porter, I liked him significantly more. So that's all I can that's all I can put it down to, really.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Just because he called you sir.
It was because he called me sir. Yeah. He was a really polite guy. Really polite guy.
Didn't Kell Brook get a bit annoyed at you because he thought you took too many photos?
That's true. Yeah, he's like,
yes,
yeah, he's like,
I wanted to avoid that.
Yeah, fucking yeah. Touch that. How many take then?
I know you did, but I'm an arse. I thought I'd get it in.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not bothered. Literally am. But like I said, I like Porter better. He was a lot nicer guy. A lot nicer guy at the time. But we'll move on to the next question. So Porter's the favourite. Do you guys go with that, Paul?
Yeah, he's got to be the favourite because he's got the better record. Simple as that. He's been tested more. He's fought opponents who he wasn't supposed to beat technically, because I don't think he was the favourite against Alexander, was he?
Nope.
He was just thrown in.
15-1 on points. Ooh.
Was he?
Yep.
Ooh, I didn't know that. Well, that makes him a wide outsider then. He was basically just a keep busy fight for Devon Alexander, and he went and gave Alexander a bit of a beating, a right pasting. Whereas every fight Kell Brook's been in that I can think of, he was the favourite for, and a strong favourite as well. And Porter's got to be the favourite purely because he's achieved more, he's been tested more, and he's shown us more.
Yeah. We'll move on to Chris. Chris, what are your thoughts? I've got a feeling you're going to disagree.
No, I think Shawn Porter should be the favourite. I mean, you go into his last 2 fights. Paulie Malignaggi is something and nothing sort of opponent. Devin Alexander is a bit like that as well, but these are guys that Kell Brook should have been fighting before Shawn Porter, so I understand Shawn Porter being favourite, and I think the fact he's got the belt is good enough for him to be a favourite. Kell Brook's all about what his potential, what he could do. We know Shawn Porter can operate at a very high level, so I understand him being favourite.
Cool. Rory, thoughts?
Yeah, same as the other guys really. He's the belt holder, he is the world champion, therefore he's achieved more than Kell Brook. Got a better resume. Yeah, worthy favourite.
Kingy, favourites?
Yeah, agree the same. Like I say, he's got the belt, he's got a better resume, it's in his country, so it's got to be the favourite, hasn't he?
Our resident gambling addict, right?
Yeah, Porter is favourite by a mile because do you want any more than that or just that?
Yeah, why not? Go on.
Well, no, I was just going to say that Kell Brook has not proven in any way that he is capable of beating Shawn Porter because he hasn't beaten anyone of even close to Shawn Porter's quality. Even if you think Shawn Porter is overrated, if he is overrated, which he possibly is, he's still better than anybody Kell Brook has beaten by quite a distance. So for Kell Brook to win, he's going to have to put in a career best performance like a Ricky Burns versus Roman Martinez or a Ricky Hatton against Costa Zhu. He's going to have to put in the best performance of his career to snatch a title away. But we don't know if he's capable of that because he hasn't beaten anybody even anywhere near as good as Julio Diaz, Devin Alexander, Malignaggi and all that. So for him to win, for Kell Brook to win, he's got to put in the best performance. Whereas Shawn Porter, even if he's overrated, he can probably still improve a bit more. So if he was to improve a bit more, imagine how much better Shawn Porter would still be to Kell Brook's former opponents. So I think that Porter is definitely a sort of, 1 to 2 odds-on favourite, something like that. And Kell Brook has got to, put on the best performance he's ever done to prove that he really is world class.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think he's got to put on his career best performance to win this fight. Can't argue with that, actually. Yeah, we'll move on. What's your predictions for this fight, Paul?
If Kell Brook's going to win this fight, then his jab is absolutely key for me. He's got a good jab, Brook, to be honest, but he's going to have to claim the centre of the ring. He can't back up. He can't let Porter go on the attack like he did against Malignaggi, because if he does, he'll just get taken out like Malignaggi did. He's got to back Porter up and got to hit him hard with a jab and get his respect early. But to be honest, call me a cynic, call me a hater, but I honestly think Kell Brook, I could see Kell Brook failing to rise to the occasion. Maybe I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, then I take it back. But I really think that Kell Brook, when he gets in the ring on the night, just won't be able to deliver the goods, to be honest. And I can see Porter probably bashing him up. And I'll give Brook some credit. I think he'll go the full 12 rounds, but I think it will be a fight similar to the Alexander fight where Porter just hasn't beaten or ends up and takes a wide decision.
Yeah, okay. Chris, what are your thoughts? Come on.
I think Kell Brook can win the fight. I think he's got to get that jab working, but I think if you look at them classically speaking, I think Kell Brook has got a vastly superior jab. And I think the way Shawn Porter fought against, especially Paulie Malignaggi, he just waded forward. I don't think you can do that against Kell Brook. I think that jab, if it works, is a key weapon for Kell Brook. And, they've got to take a lot on trust with Kell Brook. You hope that he's lived the lifestyle properly outside the ring. But I see an upset. I see Kell Brook walking Shawn Porter onto loads of hooks. And I think it'll be a unanimous decision for Brook. I think Brook, he's got the skill set to beat Shawn Porter for me.
Mm-hmm. Rory, what are your predictions?
It's a tough one. It's definitely a pick and fight. I think if you had to side with Kell Brook, then like Chris has said, you've got to sort of trust that Kell Brook can put in the best performance of his career. That being said, gun to the head, I will go with Porter. I think it's going to be a case whereby, I mean, looking at their ages, Porter's actually a younger man, and he's achieved more in his career. I think Porter's got more improvement in him because we've seen him make mistakes. So therefore, if we can tweak that and improve on a guy that is younger, peds or not, but seems to live the lifestyle outside of it, outside of the ring, and has achieved more, then yeah, I think he's just going to be too much for Kell Brook. I think if Kell Brook had had better fights leading up to this, I think it'd be certainly a closer matchup. But I think it's too much without having a real test for Brook. And I think Porter either stops him really late on, so we'd be talking rounds 10 onwards, or just wins a wide points decision.
Yeah. Pick one, come on. KO or UD?
I think the occasional get to him, Brook will gas, and I think he'll KO in rounds 10 to 12.
Ooh. Kingy, go on, give us your prediction.
I agree with Chris, actually, with what he's saying. If he gets his jab going, I think he is a superior boxer to him. But I just worry that he's going to run out of gas eventually. I think he'll win the first 5 or 6 rounds with his jab, and I think he will control him. But I can just see Porter taking over with his superior stamina and taking him out in about round 9 or 10. I really do think Brook's stamina's that bad. But he could prove me wrong, but I don't see it. I just think he's going to finish him in the end. Like, he's going to run out of steam, and then his legs will stop moving, and the jab won't as be. He needs to really ram that jab out, not just flick it out. Get Porter's respect, and then try and go from there, build a bit of a lead. But I just think he's going to gas in the end, and I'm going to pick Porter in round 9 or 10.
Go on, Ryan. What are your thoughts?
I think that Brook, who was it who said it earlier? Was it Paul? I think it was Paul who said that Brook's jab is going to be key. That's the way to, get any, body puncher, physical fighter off of you is with the jab. So I think he's going to need his jab more than anything. But I don't know, I can't remember where I read it, but I think I read it earlier, someone talking about like Kell Brook's stamina and how he gasses a bit. He just hasn't been in the ring with enough quality opposition for us to really know how good his stamina is. I mean, was it against Carson Jones where at the end of the fight he was just knackered? And that's Carson Jones is only really what we would call a European level fighter, so like a continental American fighter. He's not world class or anything.
No.
So for him to be gassing, like say what you will about someone like Tyson Fury. But Tyson Fury can do 12 rounds, standing on his head. He's like, he's a big lumbering lump or whatever, but he's got stamina in abundance, for a heavyweight. Kell Brook doesn't have that for a welterweight. So I think that it's going to be really difficult for him to do the whole 12 rounds. I think that Porter probably wins it on points, but Brook will do well, but I think he probably edges it on points, and then I think in the aftermath, him and his promotion team and all that will be like, oh, he'll come back stronger. This is his first fight at this sort of level, and he might get another world title shot in the very next fight against one of the other champs. I think it's going to be really difficult for him to win. I'd like to see him win because I think it would be good to see him with a title. But like I said earlier, it will need to be a career best win, and frankly, we haven't seen it from him. We haven't seen that sort of performance from him ever. So, I think that Porter might actually win this.
Yeah, I'll give you mine now. I honestly, I'm going to go the extra mile here as well. The first thing is, I think Kell will do well early. I think he will lose the fight via knockout in the championship rounds, 10 to 12, because he'll gas himself out. And the only reason he's going to gas himself out is because he's struggling at the weight. We know this. All of his last fights have been at like a catch weight, so now he's going to make 147 again, and that'll be hard for him. And I think after he gets knocked out, Sky will not show any replays of the fight. I think they'll move him up in weight quite quickly at 154 pounds, and they'll make a real run for what's his name, Molina's IBF title. You know, the paedophile one, sex offender. So they'll go for that title. You know, the IBF have a good relationship with what's his name, with Matchroom. So they'll try and make that fight, or they'll strip Molina and give the fight, a toss-up fight for Kell Brook to fight in against someone who can't come to the UK, and that's how they'll do it. And they'll bill it as like homecoming, bet you. That's what they'll do. But I'm saying for this fight, knockout Porter, late rounds. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kell, In fact, I wouldn't say. I'd say it would be a good result for Kell if he survived the distance, and if he looks good and survives the distance, even if he loses, a controversial decision or a decision, I think that'll be a good result for Kell, because this will be his last fight, I think, at 147 pounds. Honestly. So thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and we're out.